Let's do it. All right, so this is what we know so far, right? Can anyone see this, or is that light kind of like too bright? Light's too bright. If I highlight, I can't really change the color of this. This is just the way Markdown is. But I can blow it up. Does that help at all? That helps? Yeah? All right, cool. I'm just going to zoom in, right? Bino style. All right. So, file structure. Read me. Okay. Nothing crazy. You're not missing much if I do this, right? Okay. So, first thing is I want to talk about, introduce to you a concept called many-to-many. All right. This is what you'll be able to do today. All right. What I really want to do is review what we did already, which is the one-to-many. All right. And if we remember, the one-to-many uses like some interesting, important keywords like belongs to and has many. Right? We talked about like books and authors. Right? A book belongs to an author, and an author has many books. That's how we described that one-to-many relationship. So far, so good? All right. So really, what I want to do is like keep practicing with the groups of data related to classes on a class as a class variable, because remember, class variable, class method, instance variable, instance method, right? Cool. I touched on single source of truth yesterday. I know it was a bit fuzzy, but until we enter the many-to-many, single source of truth is going to be fuzzy. So today, single source of truth will make way more sense, all right? And all that is, again, single source of truth is the class should only know about its own class, right? So with the instructor and the school doesn't really know anything else about the school. The school doesn't really know anything about the instructor in terms of like its own attributes. Like I'm not going to have in my school class an instructor name attribute. I'm just going to have an instructor attribute, and then it's going to give me instructor.all. And then within each of the instructors, I can ask the instance of the instructor the name. The school cannot call like instructor names and it be an attribute of school. Did that make sense? The instructor names should not be an attribute of school because the instructor names are already an attribute of instructor. So the single source of truth for the instructor names will be under instructor, not under school. Otherwise, I would be duplicating code. I would have instructor names in the instructor class, and then I would also have instructor names in the school class, which would be weird, right?
So the school class should just have the number of instructors, is that what you're saying?
It would have an array of instructor objects. Right? Instances of each instructor, right? And that's how I actually make that relationship. So we're trying to get out of string land and into object land, object-oriented land, right? Cool. Yes, ready to do this? All right, so let's review object orientation. Sorry, this coffee is crazy. So let's talk about something here, right? I'm going to drop this in Ruby so it highlights a little bit better. In Markdown, you can just do this and tell it what language to do. So something that we did, right, is I can do classroom, room, right? And I can have it do something called classroom.new, right? Like let's say I had a classroom class, right? What I could do is I would do classroom, and this is sort of the example I was trying to get at earlier, right? Dot students, and students is what kind of method here? Instance or class? Instance method, correct. Because I'm calling it on the instance, right? And classroom is an instance of the classroom class, right? And before, we would have it like, I don't know, incorrectly, like a string, right? So we got what, like forest with 2 R's? Bet, right? And then we have a bunch of cool names like Michael, right? We'd have like these strings, right? But what I want to get away from is all of this string land, and I want to get into object land, all right? And the way I would do that is what I want to see is when I call classroom, oops, I hit the tab button, dot students, I want to see, remember this is just return, right? Like what I'm going to return. What I want to see is an array. Oops. An array of like these like student objects. Is that making sense so far? Yeah. Like I want to see a bunch of these student objects in here. Yeah? Okay, and the reason for that is because now these student objects will have their own individual attributes like on them, right? Like name, right? Like age, like height, right? Because if I call classroom dot height, like and it gives me like all the heights of the students, that's kind of weird, all right? I want to be able to go into my students, dot each of them, and then like ask individually like, hey, what's your height? Because then the student class knows about the attributes of the student. All right? I can't really do that here. I can't go for each of these, right, in this string, dot each, and give me the dot name, the dot height, the dot age. Because then I would be trying to call dot age on a string class. Is that making sense? Right? And that makes sense, but it shouldn't work because it's wrong. Right? So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Any questions so far? Sorry, my mouse is like, I can't find this thing. Yeah? All right. So the question was asked, how do I like instantiate like a new object within an object, right? So can you do that, right? So we can do something like this, like student.new, right? And we can just pass in like the first attribute, which is name, right? Like Yan. That looks like normal, right? Totally normal? Yeah. Okay, what I can also do is I can do, I don't know, maybe a little bit of this magic. Is there any difference? No. No. So classes can, in fact, create new instances of other classes. All right? That's the concept I want to show here. That this right here looks totally normal, but under the hood what's happening is I just literally made this new string Yan, right, which is actually a person. But I can instantiate a new string Yan in my student.new. So classes can make classes, right? Everything in Ruby is an object. Objects can make objects. Meta. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So the next thing I want to review is we did something called readers and writers, right? Question or fly? Fly. Okay, got it. So we did something, right? Like, let's just say in this student class, right? This is an attribute name. We can do what? Name equals to @name. It just returns name. Yeah? Yeah. Ruby. Right? And then this can be literally the exact equivalent of adder reader name. Check? Cool. And then, I'm not going to like waste your time, but adder writer, right, would be like name equal with parameters, and then both together, adder accessor. Cool. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to review this one-to-many relationship. So because, for the sake of time, we can like discuss it, right? What are some one-to-many relationships that you know about in real life, besides like school and instructors, like classroom and students, what else? Book and authors.
And bank accounts, like what we talked about yesterday. Like one person can have many
Okay.
bank accounts. A bank account can only have one person.
Right. Person and bank account, right?
Squirrels and nests.
Squirrels and nests. Why, thank you for that. What an interesting example, right? So something else that we could possibly think about is like an aquarium, right? An aquarium has many what?
Different species.
Fish.
Yeah, right? They have a lot of fish, right? So that's like really interesting that we talk about that. But really, This is like a quick note, right? So an aquarium, I can spell, I promise, right? Has many fish. And then what would you say that relationship between fish and aquarium are?
Fish has the same look.
Huh?
Fish swim in the aquarium.
Swish, swim in the aquarium. Right? Interesting. So something I want to point out, right, is like fish, what? Belongs to an aquarium? Is this true? So you're telling me that if I had a dolphin, right, just a dolphin class, remember I'm thinking about building my model dolphin, all right, the only place I can see a dolphin is at the Atlanta Aquarium. Is there any other aquarium that may or may not have a dolphin?
Coney Island.
Okay, Coney Island. Love how specific that is. Yeah, right? So it almost seems like a fish can have many aquariums, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so let's change that, all right? I just want to make sure I write this properly. Don't worry, I'm not crazy. This will make more sense later, I promise. So, are there any aquariums that have some particular type of fish and other aquariums maybe they don't? Right? Like some sort of like exclusivity, right? Like I know Coney Island, do they have penguins there?
They do.
They do? What about the Philly Aquarium?
I know Coney Island has shark.
Sharks? Wow. That's cool. I think the Philly Aquarium does not have penguins. I was there recently.
I can look it up.
Right? Let's not. But we can, right? So it's interesting, like how do we determine which fish like are in a particular aquarium? Kind of weird question, right? We know this, right, if they have a penguin exhibit,
So certain
right? Yeah, certain species, like a penguin exhibit or like a dolphin exhibit, right? So really, what I can say about exhibits in terms of, oh man, X to the Z, heard you like exhibits, so I made exhibits with it now. All right, exhibits what? In terms of fish, they belong to a fish? And then what would you say the relationship between fish and exhibits are?
So fish belong.
Fish belong to an exhibit, right? Because if I'm at the Philly dolphin exhibit, that dolphin is not also at the Coney Island Aquarium, right? So that's why that fish will belong to that exhibit. That's a little bit more exclusive. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I were to say an aquarium, right, has many fish, and fish have many aquariums, in terms of like this relationship, right, I would say that in the aquarium, right, what is the relationship between aquarium and exhibit? Right? Otherwise, it's just like kind of a crappy aquarium, right? Like, I'm not paid money for that. If you have one exhibit, I'm like, yo, dog pass. You know what I'm saying? Museum's free on Wednesdays. So, I mean, what about the exhibit and the aquarium?
Many to many.
Who thinks it's many?
Many to many.
This exhibit has many aquariums. Does that even sound right? This exhibit belongs to an aquarium, right?
I'm thinking of it as exhibits belong to aquariums, but that would make sense.
Exhibits belong to aquarium. That does make sense, right? Like if I had like even like in a museum example, right? Like if I were to showcase a famous person, like Tim Burton or something, and he's like, all his movie collections will be at this one particular museum. All of those movie collections and that curated experience will not be at any other museum. Right? So this particular exhibit, right, the dolphin exhibit, the shark exhibit, will be at this one aquarium. There are other shark exhibits, right, but it's not going to be that particular exhibit at that aquarium. All right? If it's a little fuzzy, when we get to squirrels nested trees, it's gonna be clear. But what are your questions?
Why does fish belong to an exhibit, but fish has many aquariums?
Very good question. All right. Why does a fish belong to an exhibit, but a fish has many aquariums? What is your reasoning for thinking that that is weird?
Because I feel like the first fish is not an instance; it's more like species.
Sure.
And then the second fish is like an instance.
Okay. Does anyone else like have any other ideas or thoughts on that? Are you all thinking the same thing, or are you thinking something different?
Same thing.
Same thing? Cool. Let me draw it out for you. I wish I had some sort of whiteboard that I can bring up. Oh, what? Money? All right, cool. Let's do this. So, what do I have here? I need a pencil. All right, you guys ready to see this magic? All right, so check it out. Let's just say I have an aquarium, right? And I have a fish here. An aquarium, sorry. All right, an aquarium has what fish? All right, and fish can go to what? More than one aquarium, all right? As like the class. So let's bring in our other friend here, the X to the Z exhibit, all right? So we said that aquarium and exhibit is what now? Huh? Aquarium has many exhibits, all right? And each one of these exhibits belong to an aquarium, all right? And then fish and exhibit, what do we say?
Belong to one.
Fish belong to the exhibit.
One
Fish
exhibit.
belong to the exhibit.
Many fish, right? Fish have many exhibits. And an exhibit belongs to a fish. That sound right?
Isn't it the other way around?
It's the other way around. What were you gonna say?
You're basically saying the instance of the fish class here is just a species of a fish. So like a dolphin or something. And that belongs to many aquariums. It's not like a specific fish.
Mhm.
The Fido the dolphin doesn't belong to many aquariums. It's just dolphins.
Yes. I'm talking about the fish as like a class,
I think that helps here.
right? So the fish as a class can belong to many exhibits, right? And then each one of those exhibits belongs to that fish. All right? If it's kind of fuzzy, it's fine. But this is generally the relationship that I'm talking about. And the key thing here is that this exhibit is like this join table, all right? The aquarium knows the fish if it has that exhibit with that fish. Don't worry, this is being recorded, so we'll follow up here in a little bit. Let's try something else, right? Let's try another very cool relationship that was like not so subtly mentioned earlier. So, I talked about squirrels, right? We talked about trees, right? I talked about nests. Nests, Z, right? What did I say about the squirrels in the nests?
Squirrel has many nests.
Right? A squirrel, right, has many nests. Right? And what about nests and squirrels? That nest belongs to a squirrel? What about trees and nests? What is this? A tree can have what? One or many? Cool. And then each one of those nests belongs to a tree, all right? So with this sort of relationship, can a squirrel have many like trees? Like, does it know many trees?
Yes.
Cool, all right? It has to, because it's got all these friggin' nests, right? What about these trees? If I have all these nests in there, is it possible that, like, I don't know, maybe more than one squirrel made a nest in my tree? So there's this many-to-many here. So if I have a many-to-many, I automatically, if I ever hear the term many-to-many, the first word I think about is squirrels nest in trees. But actually what I really think about is many-to-many, join table. Many-to-many, join table. Many-to-many, join table. Right? Because how does this squirrel actually know this particular tree? Because it has a nest in it, right? Let's say I have like squirrel 1, right? And I have like squirrel 2 and squirrel, okay, I guess it doesn't like that. All right, whatever. Squirrel 3, all right, and I have like tree 1, tree 2, and I have squirrel 1 made one here, squirrel 1 made this here, and squirrel 1 made this here. Does squirrel 1 know tree 2? No, it only knows tree 1 because it has this nest. Does squirrel 2 know tree 1? Because it has a nest here and it has a nest here. Does squirrel 3 know tree 2? No, it only knows tree 1. How? Because it has a nest. So the only way the squirrel will ever know of a particular tree is if it has a nest in that tree. I see some head nods, and I see a lot of like writing, intense writing. Is this example make more sense to you?
Yes.
Right? Is this like clear? So, if I talk to a squirrel, right? I guess I do that. The squirrel whisperer. I'm the squirrel whisperer now, and I say, "What trees do you know?" What's it going to have to tell me first? What nests it has, right? So in my squirrels, if I say, hey, squirrel, what trees do you know? First, it's going to go, all right, well, let me count all my nests. I got to go through all my nests, all right? Let me go check my nest 1, my nest 2, my nest 3. Is nest 1 in this tree? No. Is my nest 2 in this tree? No. Is my nest 3 in this tree? I only have 3 nests. Does this squirrel know this tree? If none of my nests are in this tree, does the squirrel know the tree? The answer is no, right? But if just one of them, my nest 2 is in this tree, will I know the tree?
Yes.
Yes. So squirrels nest trees, right? Many to many, join table. What's the join table here between squirrels and trees? Nests, right? So one more just hypothetical example, and then we're going to start getting after it. And that is, let's just say I have a doctor and a patient, right? That's like a regular relationship. So a doctor blank patient. If I had to use the has many belongs to, that key phrase, what would I say?
Has many.
Right? A doctor has many patients, right? So let's draw it, right? I'm just going to zoom out a little bit because we just leave this over here, right? So I got OD money over here, doc, DOC, right? And I have a patient. And we talked about what now in terms of like patient, yeah, right? Doctor has many patients, right? And a patient, right? Do you see one doctor for like everything? Like, oh man, my eye hurts. Like, oh man, my skin hurts. Oh man, my brain hurts. Right? Do I see one doctor? How many doctors do I see? Many, right? So it looks like there's like a many to many. A many to many. What's the next word? 2 words. That's right, squirrels nest trees. No, seriously, many to many, what's the next key word? Join table, right? How does this doctor know this patient?
Through an appointment.
Through their ID.
Awesome.
Well, for the pain.
For the pain. Cool. Okay, cool. So this.
I bring two.
Okay, sure. Right. David said something important, right? Like an appointment, right? That's how you actually know your doctor. If you went and made an appointment to see that doctor, right? Let's just say I have a doctor, right? Dr. Z, Dr. Zizmore for my pimples, right? And it's like native New Yorkers will know.
Subway advertising.
Thank you. Does he know who I am right now? If I call his office and I say, hey, listen, I got this huge zit on my forehead. I need doctor time now. Right now. All right, cool. I'll pencil you in tomorrow at 3. Now do I have a relationship with this doctor?
Yes.
Right. So I have a relationship with this doctor through my appointment. So if I'm the doctor and I say, hey, what are all my appointments today? Oh, you have 4 appointments. Okay, cool. I have 4 appointments. What does this mean in terms of like a doctor and appointments?
Has many.
Has many, right? Doctor has many appointments in one day? And then that appointment, does that go to any other doctor? No. So that is what? It belongs to? And I go, all right, let me check all my appointments. Who am I seeing today? Well, you're going to see Yan, you're going to see Yishen, you're going to see Wang Tron, you're going to see Andrew today. So each one of those appointments is going to know the patient. That's how the doctor knows the patient through the appointments table, through the join table, right? And so what about patient and appointment? What is this relationship? Can a patient have 1 or more appointments? This is like a many, right? And then each one of those appointments belongs to how many people? 1. So this is a belongs to. So when I see many to many, I need a what? Join table. Any questions on that whatsoever? When you re-listen to the lecture, the aquarium and the exhibit will make a little more sense. But this is like clear. I kind of wanted to like extrapolate something that was like fuzzy, and then I wanted to like solidify it. Is that better? Is this join table, is the many to many making more sense? Good deal. All right, let's build these squirrels' nests and trees. Go. All right, cool. So I need to build this, right? What do I? Oh, whoa. What am I building?
Last one.
All right, whatever. We'll just leave that. All right. What am I building? Squirrel. Squirrel.rb. What else am I building? Tree. And what else am I building? All right. And then I can already kind of see this. If I have 3 classes, all right, and those classes are interrelated, and I keep each class in its own file, will each of those files know about each other? No. I need some sort of like combo file, right? So for now, we'll call it combo. I called it runner because that was like proper. But you know what? We can do whatever we like, and we can do whatever we like. So, just like that, there are squirrels, nests, and trees, right? Oops. Which one is this one? I can't really see it. This is the combo file. We'll worry about that later. Do you guys want to build the nest, the squirrels, or the trees first? Squirrels, right? So, for those of you that like didn't really have an answer, would it make sense to build my nest tree first? Right? The nest tree needs to know about what 2 things? The squirrel and the tree. So if I did not build the squirrel or the tree, how could the nest exist? All right? So if you're starting out, do you start with the join table? Do you build the join table? No, you don't. Don't build the join table first, because it's not going to make any sense to you. Start with your 2 models, right? Which one of those 2 models? That's dealer's choice, right? Because, I mean, how is that really, like, you know what I'm saying? So let's build squirrels first, right? Cool. All right. And what do I need first? First thing when I build a method. Oops. All right, cool. Let's keep it simple, right? What are some attributes of this squirrel? Cool, has a name. Anything else? Yeah, let's keep it classy, all right? Just a name. Oops. All right. So you have name equals to name. Anything crazy? No, right? Am I ever going to want to read this name at some point?
Yeah.
Probably, right? Am I ever going to want to like overwrite that name? You know it. Just kidding. Do we want to overwrite squirrel names?
No.
All right, let's not. You know, this is dealer's choice, I guess. I want to overwrite them. I can't tell them apart. I'm just going to name them whatever I want. But you know what? I'll build yours. So, what do I do here? Well, first thing is, I wrote some code. I should probably test it. So let me do that. I'm going to put in my combo file. I'm going to require something I need to test, which is what? Cool. And then I need to require what? I need to require the actual file I want to test. Oop, that's not it. Is that it? Yeah, right? So let's test. So when I run the binding, oops. Where is it? I lost my terminal. Oh. Cool. What file am I running? Combo, right? Cool. So what's going on here? What do I have? Do I have nests? Do I have squirrel? I do. Do I have tree? I don't. Cool. So now I know this works, right? What else did I write? I made the initializer. So let's test. What's the squirrel's name? Alvin. Right? So what is secret.name? Can I overwrite it?
Yes.
No.
No, we can't.
I can't, because we only made the reader, right? So all of our code that I wrote right now works. I write a little bit, then I test. I write a little bit, then I test. I write a little bit, and then I test. For the recording. Please. I write a little bit, then I test. Cool. All right? So now the squirrel is good, right? What else do we need for the squirrel class? Anything else?
So you can make a nest function. Is that going to have?
We could make a nest function, right? But for right now, I just want the squirrels and I want the trees to exist, all right? Spoiler alert, I want the tree to exist. That's the tree file, all right? So what do I do now? Cool. All right. And what does the tree have?
A species.
Sure. Species. Right. All right. You want to avoid this keyword called type. Type is a keyword in Ruby. If I put type here, it will break. And I don't have time to show you that. But just trust me. When you write type, just build a function, put type in, you'll see it. I'll walk you through it. I'll hold your hand like a candy store. All right. So we got species equals what? The species I'm going to put in. All right. So should I test this?
Yep.
I should definitely test it. But real quick though, I mean, like, I probably need to be able to like what? Read this. And what am I reading? Cool. You guys are all G's. Am I going to have access to it in this?
No.
No. If I run it, am I going to get it?
No.
Yes or no? Who says yes? Okay. Just kidding. I'm going to run in the combo file, right? Do I have access to trees here? Now I will, right? So what is tree? Tree is a class, right? Tree1 equals tree.new, and the species is oak, the mighty oak, right? Then t1.species gives me oak. Can I overwrite it? Right? Pine, because pine's classy, but cheap. So no. Right? Anyone get lost so far on what we just did? No. So now we have the squirrels, now we have the trees, now we need to build a nest. Right? So far so good? Let's build that nest. Build that nest. Build that nest. Right? Talk me through it. Very good. Sorry, I write these notes because as your classes get really long, I swear it will help you. Damn it. All right. What does a nest need to know about again?
Squirrel and tree.
It needs to know about the squirrel and the tree. All right? Because it's the join table. The join table needs to know about the two models. It has to join the models. All right? Like, I can't be like, oh, I'm going to make this nest, and all it's going to have in there is the squirrel. That nest is on the floor. And we don't want that, right? Because then the ravens come in, and the hawks, and then the squirrel dies, and then we just delete the squirrel class altogether. It's just a mess. So what does the join table need to know about? What does the join table always need to know? The two models it joins. All right? So, remember in that awesome drawing I made earlier about doctors and patients? What was the join table? Appointments. Appointment was the join table. So in my appointment, besides probably like time and day, what does my appointment need to know? The doctor and the patient, right? The two models that I'm joining. So far, so good. Cool. So we have a nest, right? I'm just going to speed this up. At squirrel equals to this. All right, and then at tree equals to tree. And any questions so far? Which one? Oh, you mean Quirrell? Professor Quirrell? Square W. That's bizarre. Is that good?
Yeah.
It's hard. Cool. So in my combo file, what do I need now? I probably need what? Nest, right? Interestingly enough, the nest can only be initialized with what? If I put new self? Sorry, that was painful. Right? Am I just gonna put like secret squirrel 1 here, and then am I gonna put like the mighty oak? All right. What did I say about like stringland? That's for chumps, right? Long time ago. Let's get out of there. So if I'm passing in, all right, the squirrel and the tree, how do I do that? Tree1 equals tree.new. And what does it need? Some sort of species, right? Like apple, right? All right. You know what? Yeah, let's do that too. Let's just throw an oak in there. All right. And then what else do we need? Equals to what? All right, sure, brown. All right, that's the name of the squirrel apparently. All right, also blue. We don't want to be racist. All right. Is that cool? Thank you. All right, this is important. Cool. So, what do I do with this? All right, what about this? Which one? 2? Who cares? All right. Let's take a look at nest. All right, this is very important. Look up, look up,
Wait, sorry.
look up.
You need squirrel 1.
All right, I'll put it in there. Squirrel, then tree. Squirrel, then tree. The way I write my initialize will matter because remember, this is argument 1, this is argument 2. All right, if I put in tree first here, guess what squirrel is? It is now the tree object. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, argument 1, argument 1. Argument 2, argument 2. If I pass a tree object in, it's going here. So when I call at squirrel for my nest, it's going to give me a tree. If I put it in the wrong order, always check that. That's important. Cool. So I wrote some sweet code. Squirrel 1, thanks for that. So what can I do now? I can test, as I should. Right? So I have a nest. Right? Oh man, I messed up. Nest 1. Right? Eagle's nest. Cool. So now I have nest 1. And now I can go nest 1 dot what? What is an attribute of nest 1? Squirrel 1, you sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
What's the attribute?
What do we write in here
Name.
and here that we did not write in here? All right? Does that make sense? Because these are attributes, I want to be able to read them, right? Because I'm literally just doing what? Returning @squirrel. Ugh. Ugh. You get it, right? Right? So I don't want to do that because it's bad Ruby, right? So now, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, man. So nest 1, squirrel 1, squirrel. Now I have it. Now my nest knows about my squirrel, and my nest knows about my tree. So if I could say, right, hey nest, what's your tree? It'll tell me. And I'll say, hey, that tree, right, you have a nest. In that tree, what species is that tree? It's oak. Everyone following so far? Because, remember, what do I have here when I call that? The return value is just the tree instance. The tree instance has a adder reader of species. So I'm just calling the tree instance. The exact equivalent would be like this, dot species. I don't know if that's actually going to work. I don't know if you can really do that. But does that make sense? Like I'm getting the instance and I'm calling species on it. In the same way that, I think what is oak? Tree 1 or tree 2? Tree 2? Yeah. So this tree 2 is the instance, right? As the same instance here, nest1 dot tree, right? So nest1 dot tree, is that equal to tree 2? Yes. So if I call tree 2 dot species, it'll give me oak. In the same way, I can call nest1 dot tree dot species, give me oak. Yeah. So I totally failed you. It is like 11:55. I don't want to fly through. I don't want to lose you. Do you want me to go quickly, or do you want to push the rest of the lecture to after lunch?
Push.
So when we broke, I asked you to think about these things in terms of like feature sets to build out, right? So let's start. Squirrel makes a new nest, right? How do we do that? Sure, Christina.
First, you have to make a new squirrel and then a new tree, and then
I have to make a new squirrel, and then new squirrel will make a new nest.
no. First, you have to make a new squirrel and then a new tree, and then both of those will make a new nest.
I have to make a new squirrel. So I'm going to be in my combo file, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay, sure. Talk me through it.
Well, it's not minus one. You have to have a squirrel and tree to pass in.
I have to have a squirrel and tree to pass in. Exactly, right? And that's how I make a new nest. How does, now, I probably should be better at this. How does a squirrel make a new nest? Besides you two. Well, we'll ask an easier question, right? Who's making the nest?
Squirrel.
Nice. So where should this method go? Squirrel class, right? Cool. So, and this is pretty easy, right? Make nest. So now my squirrel has this method called make nest. What this is going to look like, if you can think about it and extract, is squirrel 1, this is what it should look like, dot make nest. That's what it's going to look like, right? So this squirrel 1 is going to make a new nest. Does that look like it makes sense? Right? A particular squirrel is going to make a new nest. So far, so good. Right? Yes, Forbes.
I have just a question there.
Yeah.
When you call that method, I'm just thinking about kind of how conceptualizing the combo. Would you not want a pre-existing tree? Like, would you want to take that in as an argument?
Absolutely.
Because you could make a tree and then make an nest, but that seems like a weird thing for the squirrel to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question. So that being said, right, what you're saying is I have to pass in some sort of tree.
Tree first.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So what makes more sense, right? A squirrel 1 is going to make a nest, but where am I going to make this nest? What? Tree 2? When I make a nest, I need to tell the squirrel what nest it's going in. What tree it's going in, right? So if that's the way the code looks, because it just makes sense, I can talk that out, right? That was the logic, that was the reasoning. I obviously need to have some sort of argument of a tree object. This is going to be the tree object that I'm going to make the nest in, right? This is like the way it logically flows. So if I want to make a new nest, what does that code look like? Nest.new, right? And then let's think, what does the nest need? I lose all the functionality with Spectacle, you're right. A nest needs a squirrel and a tree. In that order, right? Remember, the order is very important. So, I need a squirrel, then a tree, right? You're onto something. Who's calling this instance method? A squirrel, right? Is any other squirrel going to make this nest for squirrel 1? No, it's always going to be the object that calls it is the squirrel that makes it. So if I know something about the object that calls it, is always going to be, I'm passing in the squirrel, and now I'm passing in my tree object.
So when we run self inside of that argument, because it's, in this case, the object nest, it's pointing to class nest, right?
Yes, so nest will be initialized, right? I'm going to make a new nest with the squirrel that's calling it, squirrel 1 here, right? And the tree, and the tree that I want. Bless you. Does that make more sense? Is that code connecting in your brains? Cool. So, what do I do now? Now that I have code that makes a lot of sense to me, and I wrote it, and I'm 100% positive it's going to work, right? Whoa. Wow, you're confident. Yeah, let's test. Okay, cool. So what can I do again? I can have squirrel 1, right, dot what? Make nest. And I got to pass in what tree? Any one of these, right? I can just call it tree 1. And then what should happen? A new nest should now exist with the squirrel 1, which if we remember is brown, right? So squirrel 1 in this nest object, which is brand new, I have a squirrel, name's Brown, cool name, and a tree, that's tree 1, which was actually apple. And there it is, apple tree. And that is like just the thought process behind it, right? Like every single step you told me. You made that connection. You're like, oh, I need to make a nest, right? But a nest needs a tree. If a squirrel's going to make a nest, it has to pick the tree that it's going to make it in. So I'm going to pass in that tree as an argument. And who's making it? Oh, that's me. So far, so good? Cool. So this is done. Boom. Right? I'll just put that right here. That was that. Right? Squirrel makes a new tree. So the squirrel is forgetful, unfortunately. So we can forget that. That was kind of mean to me to say. Squirrel wants to know, how many nests do I have? Squirrel wants to know, I'm just going to put, how many nests do I have? How would I figure that out? Probably some sort of count method, right? So I'm thinking that already. I need to count. But what am I counting? Count is a method on a string, on a hash, on an array. count or length, whatever, is a method on an array. So I probably need to count an array, right? I need a list of nests. I need an array of nests that belong to me as the squirrel. That's what it's asking for. Who is able to just like translate that sentence? Who is not able to translate that sentence? Who's just really tired because it's after lunch? I'm asking all the wrong questions. One more time. Squirrel wants to know how many nests do I have, right? Immediately, how many is going to be the count. You figure that out. That's like super easy, right, to deduct. You're all Sherlock Holmes. Now, I need to deduce how many nests do I have, right? And the only way to know how many nests I have is to check, like, hey, there are like 10 nests altogether, right? Like if I made like 10 nests, right? I'm just gonna make 3 actually, I'm lazy. Right? If there are 3 nests, how do I know which one is mine? I'm gonna go, hey, nest 1. Am I the squirrel in that nest? Nest 2. Am I the squirrel in that nest? Nest 3. Am I the squirrel in that nest? That's basically what I have to do, right? And then I'm just going to return that list where that condition is true, where I am the squirrel in the nests that I'm talking about. But first, I need what information in regards to the nests? I need a list of I need all of the nests to check to see if it's me, right? If I need all the nests, first I need to figure out how do I get all the nests, right? Because we've determined that that is the way to go, right? I need to look through all the nests, and I need to see if in that nest, that dot squirrel is me. Yes?
Is there something wrong with, like the method I did in this situation would be to make an instance of all the squirrels that one squirrel's made, and then also make a class variable that stores everything, so you can keep them separate without checking. Is that like not a preferred method? Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and before I confuse anybody, just allow me to finish this thought.
Okay, sorry.
And then if you still have a question, I'll answer it. So, I need all the nests, right? Who agrees that I need all the nests to check, right? Cool. How do we do that? In the squirrels nest or tree class? All the nests.
Yes.
Right. Again, single source of truth. That's all that means, right? If I'm asking all the nests, I'm not going to put that in the squirrel class. If I'm looking for all the nests, I'm putting it in the nest class. So who's getting it a little bit more about single source of truth? Just a little bit more, right? You don't have to be rock steady on it. But yeah, cool. So let's find this nest class. So remember, we talked about this last time, right? If this regarding every single nest ever to exist, should this be an instance variable or should this be a class variable? Because the class knows about the class, everything that happens in the class. The instance knows about the instance, right? So how do I write this class variable? Double at, right? And I'm looking for what? Some, most, all. That's how I got that. And then we already determined that I need the count. The count should be on what data structure again? Is this like making sense now? Cool, cool, cool. So, we talked about this, right? Remember when I define initialize? It runs initialize every time I call new. So if I want to make sure I'm collecting every single one that ever existed ever, right? I want to be able to push every time I make it into this all array. So at all, I want to push every single time I initialize, every time I call .new, I want that instance to go into self. That way, when I make one nest, all is an array of one nest. When I make 2 nests, all is an array of 2 nests. Every time I call .new, that all array grows by 1. And it will be, in fact, a string or a number or a nest instance, right? I'm getting the nest object, the nest instance, right? I wrote a lot of code. Let's test. right? How am I going to test this? I need nest, right? That exists. And I'm going to do what? I want to ask for the all. Is this all going to run? Because there's no what? Is there a method all? There's no method all, right? So let's make it. Define all, right? I'm hearing a lot of self.all. Why self.all? Class method, right? Because here, when I'm defining it in the scope of the class, right, self refers to what? The instance or the class? Class. So I can always do, I want to return this, right? For class methods, you can't really use add a reader. You can't make like a special class method. There's no sweet syntactical sugar for it. So far, is all Gucci? Right? So now, in theory, this will run. But will it run in this pry session? No, because I don't have the code for it yet. But so do I call, what is nest1 the instance? Do I call this class method on the instance? It's not going to run. How do I call this class method? On the class, right? The class is nest.all, and I should be getting what? Oh, I didn't save it. Wow. Good shout. Good shout. Just lost the magic there. There we go. Whew. Good save. Good shout, right? Why is there only one in here? Hmm? Did I?
You only hold the squirrel to make next
They're just calls and just create once, so that's why.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. All right, cool.
Sorry, I didn't follow why.
Because you see this little blue dot? I also didn't save this file. So embarrassing. Yeah, just see if you're paying attention, right? And you should have gotten the hint because binding on pry was on line 20, and it's definitely on line 24. That's what gave it away for me, right? Sorry. Now, for the magic, right? Yeah! So, it's going to have all these nests, right? Because I made these nests here. So, in theory, I can put squirrel.1, the instance, calling what kind of method? Class or instance? And that's this. Make nest with what tree? Just put tree 2, right? So remember, I have 1 nest object, right? 2 nest objects, 3, 4. When I finish this, how many nest objects should I get? Right? I just made this last new one, right? So if I call nest.all, I should have 5. And in fact, I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's this last one here, 5.
Can you use it with length? Nest.
Nest.all, dot length. Just want to double check. Cool, smart. Right? I mean, I can also do dot count if you want, but I'm just wasting your time, right? So cool. So far, so good, right? Now I have the ability to get all the nests. All right, so let's go back to this. This is what we needed, right? We wanted the squirrel. Right, so what class should this go again? Squirrel class, right? Single source of, right? So define, right? What is this method name? How many nests do I have? Sure, nest count. That's a great name. No, it is. I'm not being facetious. It's a great name, right? Nest count. And what is it going to do again? Right? It needs to go through all the nests. Right? And then what am I doing with all the nests? I'm only checking to see if those nests belong to me. So I need to what? Look through. You're saying like all these like Ruby iterators? I need you to slow that down. Pump the brakes on that. Listen to the words that I'm saying because I need you to understand the logic behind it. Because someone is saying find, someone is saying map, someone is saying collect, someone is saying select, right? Don't worry about that. The code will be written for you if you can pseudocode. If you can talk the logic out, you will never be confused which method to use. Remember, I'm going to go through all the nests, and I only want the ones that I am the squirrel in that nest. So, am I mutating that data? No, right? How many am I getting? One or more than one? So, am I going to use find? Find returns one and the first one where the condition's true. What does map do? Map mutates the data. We already said we're not mutating it. We're not finding just one, right? What am I doing? I'm looking for what? Multiple, right? Where a condition is true. What method does that? Select, right? So don't shout random iterators, right? If you hear the logic, you'll never be confused, right? So I'm going to select. A little bit of do action, and then X. X again. You guys love X, right? I'm going through all of the nests. So each one of these nest objects are going to be X or squirrel. I'm looking through all the nests, right? Remember, nest.all gives me an array of nests, right? Nest, nest. So what is each one of the nest.all? Each one of the nest.all. What is this again? A nest object, right? If I'm going to look through nest.all, each one of them is a nest, right? In the same way that, remember this bad boy? Array equals to 1, 2, 3. If I were to go array.select do, am I putting X in there? Or am I putting squirrel? Or am I putting nest? Or am I putting tree? What am I putting? Num. Because each one of the items in this array is a fixed num. If we want to be like really Ruby specific, right? It's fixed num. So in the nest.all, this must be a nest. Is there any questions on how I got nest and not X?
In the assessment, if you put X, even though it works, really like.
If you put X, I will not fail you. I will not. But if you then do something weird with X, and you can't tell me what X represents, I will fail you. If you put X in here, right, and then you're like, something funky, like X plus 3, and I'm like, cool, that's weird that you added 3 to it, but what is X? And you're like, oh, it's I don't know, a tree. And I'm like, all right, cool. If you don't know what this is, that's when I will start questioning your understanding. And if I have to question your understanding, then it's not like pass-fail, right? This is like, I only want you to move to mod 2 when you are ready. So if I ask you what X is, and you're like, oh, let me think about it. And you're like, wait, I'm going through the nest array tree. I'd be like, cool. And it's not because I'm making fun of you, and I really don't care. All I care about is that you understand. So start getting into the habit of naming your variables properly. Right? So in all of the nests I'm iterating through each nest. Right? Even if you were to put nest object, that'd be cool. But for now, let's just nest, right? Good? All right. So now, because X minus plus 3 means nothing, what are we doing with that nest, right? What do I have in this one nest object? What do I have? I have a squirrel, and I have a tree, right? And what class am I in again? Squirrel. So how do I check in this nest which squirrel it is? In this nest, which squirrel it is? Nest.squirrel. That will give me the squirrel in that particular nest as I'm iterating through. Yeah? I can always prove it to you, all right? So we know nest is an array, right? And we know the iterators go through each one of those one at a time, right? So what is this? That's just going to give me the first one, right? Boom. Snap. Yeah, nest.all. Right. Nest.all is the array. Very good. I'm also kind of tired. So what does that give me? That gives me the first nest, right? So I can always do this and check what? The tree. I can also check the squirrel. Right? And that gives me the squirrel string. The squirrel object, right? So what's the difference between this line of code and this line of code? Besides like the syntax, I'm talking about like what it's going to return you. Who thinks it's the same in terms of its return value? Okay? Who thinks it's different? Okay. It's hard for me to like figure out where you are. I need this. Who thinks it's the same? Nest.squirrel here and nest.all, the first item squirrel. All right, cool. They are in fact the same, right? So if I can check the squirrel, right, and the squirrel object, when I'm calling this, right, remember this is an instance or class method? Is this an instance or class method? Instance. So I'm calling it on a particular instance. So I have access to the instance, right? And I have access to the instance. I have access to the instance. I want to check to see, remember this is the logic that you all agreed to, that I want to go through all of the nest objects, which I'm doing, and I only want the ones where in each nest, I am the squirrel, or self here, because Ruby doesn't like I. Yes? Right? I'm just checking, hey, each one of those squirrels, select that one. If in that nest, the squirrel is me. That's how the code is written. All right, we don't need that. Oop. Good? Questions on this? This is like part of probably one of the hardest things on the assessment.
So line 16, I'm sorry, I don't quite see where dot squirrel, why that's there.
No worries. So, do you know what this is?
Yes.
Okay, what is this?
That's the array of nest, class nest.
Yep,
So
right?
we're iterating through it.
Yep, and what is this right here?
That's
The first nest
the first nest
in that array.
in that array.
So when I get to the select do, what is this again?
That's the nest object.
Right. And in the first iteration of this, what is this nest? It's just the first nest object. Sorry, I knew that question was confusing, so I gave it to you. It's the first nest object. So the first nest object right here, and what did you tell me this was?
Dot squirrel, I didn't understand.
Right. This is the first nest object. We got there, right? And what is this?
The first nest object.
Cool. So when I said first nest object dot squirrel, which remember is going to give me this, it gave me this. Do you understand how this is working?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the first nest object, I can call dot squirrel on it. In the exact same way, the first nest object, I called dot squirrel. And it gave me a squirrel object. Now, what's going to happen is I want to see if that is equal to the instance that called it, because we described this as a class or instance method.
Yeah. Instance.
Good. So in theory, it should look like something like this, right? A squirrel, 1, which is an instance, dot nest count, right? Because I'm calling an instance method on an instance, right? So what is self in this one?
Object of a squirrel.
What is a self in this exact scenario? Squirrel what? Right. So I'm checking if that nest of squirrel is equal to squirrel 1. And then because it's iterator, I'm going to check the next nest, to see if that nest's squirrel is squirrel 1. And then the next one, and the next one. And then it's going to return me a new array where only those nests, the squirrels in that nest, is me. So far, so good. Cool. So we wrote a lot of code. Let's test it. I should save it, though. That would have been embarrassing. I do. I'm so Glad you're all here. Cool. So now I can call squirrel1.nestCount. And what am I going to get? An array where only the nests, where I am the squirrel, where squirrel 1 is the nest. Squirrel 1 is the squirrel in all the nests. All right? And there we go. Brown, brown, brown. Right? In the same way that I can just check 2. Right? There's only one for the blue squirrel. Kind of lame. Didn't really get around. So it's cool. Right? So far, so good? So what do we do again? If this is an array, what can we do? Right? So this is what? Like, what is this exactly? This is like the nests equal to all of this code. And then I can just return nest.length or count. That will then give me how many nests I have. Okay, cool. We can also like refactor this a little bit, right? Let's make this a little bit cleaner. So we have this, we have this. So far, so good? What is this exactly? What would you say this returns in English? Yeah, it returns an array, but in English, what would you say this is actually returning? If I had to describe what it is.
A list of nests.
Right, but what specifically? A list of nests that belong to this squirrel, right? So I could probably just rename this right now and just say these are my nests. Now this method, when it returns, makes more sense because when I didn't, embarrassing. What the? Undefined nests count. Oh, I'm calling nest count here. Sorry. I had nest count here and then I deleted it, but I didn't save it. So that's where it's coming from. So I can just do squirrel1.myNests, right? Because I renamed this method, myNests. And it's going to return what? An array that are really just my nests, right? Squirrel 1's nests, right? And then I can then do .length on it, right? So how many nests do I have? So really, this is what is known as a helper method because it's going to help me, right? Nest count. And then I'm just going to do my nests dot length. That's how I refactored that and separated them so that each method will only do how many things? One thing, right? Single responsibility principle, single source of truth.
Just to clarify, you wouldn't actually, like, I don't know if like it was just like a typo, but would you actually put the nest count inside the myNest function, or would you like take it out of there? Because
Say
right
it?
now you have nest count inside of myNest. Like that, and
No, you just move from line to the line 18. Yeah.
You want this to go where?
no, there's
So
you.
you line minus that end, and you go to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you're right. I need this end. Yeah. Cool.
Then you get one in the bottom.
Yeah. Good shout. This is the squirrel class. This is why I put this here, because I'll know where this end is coming from. Right? You see how like that helped me later? Foresight. Except I'm like awful with ends. That's probably why I do it. Any questions on this? How I got to it, right? Without jumping immediately to random iterators, like just talking out loud, like why that code made sense, how I was able to get to that code based on the deliverable that was asked of me. Like literally, how many nests do I have? And I was able to write this code straight from this. Any questions on how I got there? Literally, give you this deliverable, and you need to spit this out. But more important than just writing the code, every single one of you will have a one-on-one, and I will be like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Why did you write this? What is this coming from? And the answer to that is, I need to go through all the nests, and then in each of the nests, I want to take the squirrel, I want to check the squirrel, and I want to check to see if that squirrel is me, because I'm the instance that called on it. And then this is just a helper method, because once I get that array of my nests, all I have to do is figure out how many are in there, and I call dot length. If you could say that to me in English with code like this, I would pass you very quickly.
I can say very loud.
I love the confidence, Johnny.
Yes,
Yes, and do this on a different domain model, right? Any questions on that? Because this is like literally the hardest part. All right, let's keep going. Squirrel wants to know which trees I have nests in. Which trees I have nests in, right? So let's do that. So first thing I'm thinking is what? Tree class? Squirrel class, right? Because of what principle? Single source of truth, right? If a squirrel wants to know something, squirrel's got to have that method. So, I'll just make it for you, right? Which trees? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So, in English, can anyone try to tell me like how I would write this method? I don't need Ruby. If you want to throw Ruby in there, that's cool. But explain to me what it is that I need to go through. What information do I need to figure out which trees I have? Remember, it's going to look just like this. Squirrel2.which trees. That's what it's going to look like, if you can visualize it. What do I need to go through?
Using my nest function, iterate. You just take all those and take the trees.
Right, so I iterate through what?
You just iterate through the returning of my nest function. So all of your nests that belong to yourself, and then you just get the trees.
Can you say it louder?
So you already used the my nest function that you have built. So
Yeah.
it just gives you all of your nests already. So you iterate through all those, and then you just take the tree out. You just return the tree objects.
Cool. So what he said was, I should just go through all of my nests, right? And then just grab the tree object from each of them. So like if I call squirrel.1.mynests, I'm going to get an array of my nests. But the beautiful thing about these nests is that they know about the squirrel, which is me, and the tree, right? So if I can go through each one of these nests, I can just ask for the dot tree, right? So let's do that. I mean, I can do that, right? So I could just do my nests, right? That would already help me. I guarantee I'm going to see this. Nest.all.select do, right? X. Just kidding. Nest, right? And you're going to, and I see it. You're going to duplicate this code right here. Right here. And then you're going to ask for, you're going to set this to like, my nest, it's really ironic. My nests equal to this code. And then you're going to go through each of the nests, and you're going to ask for the tree. I'm only saying this because I want you to see like just patterns, right? And I want you to avoid pattern matching. So understand what it's doing. You already have all your nests, right? And what is my nest again? Hash, string, number, array. It's an array. So what can I do with it? I can iterate through them, right? And I want to know which trees I'm in. So let me ask you this. Do I want to return the tree objects, or do I want to return the name of the tree? The name of the tree, right? Remember, I'm going through objects. I only want to return a name. And the name is what data structure? A string, right? So I have objects, and I want to return strings. What am I doing with that data? I'm turning an object into a string. What am I doing with that data? I'm mutating it, right? So what iterator should I use? Map and collect are the same. So I like map because you're going to use it a lot in JavaScript. So just, if you use collect, I'd be like, Roger.
Do you have to do self without my nest?
Do I have to do self.mynest? In this case, self is implicit. So you should be able to just, Ruby will give it to you, yeah. If you write on the test self.mynest, I'd be like, yep, Roger, tracking, good to go. No harm, no foul. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So it would work.
It would work both ways, right? And there's only one way to find out. Test, right? So my nest.map, right? What's that favorite letter again? That's right, nests. Because what is my nest returning? An array of nest objects. So for each one of them is a what now? It's a nest object, right? So what do I want to do with that nest? What does the nest have again? Let's see. It has a squirrel and a tree. I can call dot squirrel, and I can call. So don't want to forget this, because that would be bad. And what should this return me? An array. An array of, remember, mutated data. And we know tree is what? It's going to be the tree object. All right? So if I get the tree object, is there anything I need to go further? Right? I need to get the species. So any questions on how I got to dot species? Cool, let's test. Squirrel 2 dot which trees? Right? Are they all oak trees? Did I not put any in? Oh yeah, I didn't put any. Cool. So that actually is working. It's not wild and crazy. Like if, let's do it then, right? Let's make squirrel 2. Create a nest. Make nest. And then in what? Let's make it tree 1. Because I don't want it in this like oak tree. Like I want it in the apple tree, right? So then I can do squirrel 2 dot which trees, and I should get what? Oak and apple. Right? Because I literally had squirrel 2 make a new nest in tree 1. Tree 1's the apple. You can tell here. And it's going to iterate through, and it's going to pull the tree object, then the species. Any questions so far? All right. Let's keep going. But this time, I'm going to speed it up because you're obviously all tracking, and the lecture's running super long. Right? So, tree has how many nests? What class should I put this in? That's right, the tree class, right? Boom, 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 a little bit of this. Don't really need this anymore. Right? Tree has how many nests? So, def, right? Nest count, right? Cool. And then what do I need to go through? All the nests, right? And I want what? Select, right? Do. And then this is a collection of nests, so nest, right? Don't want to forget this n because I'm going to. And then nest.tree, right? We'll find out each one of these nests, the tree, if it's equal to myself, right? And then what? What's this going to give me? An array of trees, right? So these are actually just my nests, right? Def. Cool. That's going to give me how many nests I have, right? I'm not punishing you, but what I am just trying to make this lecture not super ridiculously long, and I'm not getting questions. So I need to know, this tree wants to know what now? In the tree class, tree wants to know something, tree class, single source of truth. Tree has how many squirrels? Def, right? Squirrel count. And, right? I need to go through what? right? I'm not going to ask the squirrels. I'm going to ask the nests because I can only know the squirrels through the nests, right? And I want to know the count. So again, I need to know all of these, right? My nests. Actually, let's probably just count again. Because it's like the same question, right? How many nests do I have? Each one of these squirrels have one nest. Each one of these nests are in my tree. I'm already in my nests.
Is that, what if you, I mean, does it work with that example? What if you more squirrels making different nests?
But then nests would not belong to squirrel. Then nests would have many squirrels in your example.
No, I mean, the nest is like you should have more squirrels bigger.
Oh, you want, oh, you're right. So particular, okay. Squirrel count, right? So I'll go through my nests, all right? I probably need to, what, pass in the squirrel? You're totally right. I need to pass in the squirrel because I want to know how many of a specific squirrel I have, right? So I'm going to go through all my nests, and I'm going to select only the ones where in that nest, the nest.squirrel is equal to the squirrel I pass in, the squirrel object I pass in, right? I'm trying to be explicit here so you can kind of see the difference between this and this, right? Before I break this, a little bit do, a little bit of this, right? That is actually going to give me what? A particular squirrel, right? So tree.squirrels, you pass in a squirrel object. I'm going to kill it, but thank you. So this is going to return to me an array of nests where that squirrel matches the squirrel I want to check. And then I can do squirrel count from here, right? And then I can check squirrels dot count. I have too many ends in there. Did I lose anybody? All right, cool. What are your questions? All right, great. So we deployed a lab